By dawn, they left the mineshaft, exhausted but alive. The forest was quiet, almost too quiet, but the man from the order was gone. For now, they drove deeper into the mountains, following the journal's directions. Each page seemed to guide them further away from civilization, as though pulling them into the earth itself. By midday, they reached a valley where the ground seemed to tremble faintly underfoot. Steam rose from fissures in the rocks, and a constant hum filled the air, low, steady, unnatural. Emma whispered, "It feels like the ground is alive." Josh crouched near a fissure, peering into the darkness. "Guys, I think this is it. The place from the drawing." Daniel opened the journal again, his hands shaking. The next page was almost illegible, smudged with ink and dirt, but one line stood clear. "Only those bound by blood may pass. The key unlocks the way." Clara's breath caught. "Bound by blood. Daniel, it's talking about us. The Bennetts." Before Daniel could respond, the earth rumbled beneath their feet. A deep crack split the valley floor, glowing faintly from within. The family staggered back as the hum grew louder, vibrating in their bones. Emma screamed, "Dad, what's happening?" Daniel clutched the key, staring at the crack widening before them. The ground was opening, and something was trying to come out. Part 4. The Gate Beneath the Earth. The crack widened with a deafening groan, the ground trembling beneath their feet. Steam hissed upward, and the strange humming grew into a sound that wasn't just heard. It was felt, resonating in their bones like the world itself was speaking. Emma clutched her brother's arm. "Dad, it's opening. What do we do?" Daniel raised the key instinctively, and to his horror, it began to glow faintly in his hand, casting pale light across their terrified faces. Josh's eyes widened. "Okay, that's not normal." The fissure yawned wider, revealing a staircase of stone spiraling downward into glowing darkness. From the doorway, Clara's voice came soft but firm. "Then we don't fail. We can't." She stepped into the kitchen, placing her hand on his. He looked at her, seeing the fear in her eyes, but also the strength. She had always been the steady one. "Daniel," she said, "we have to protect the kids. Whatever this curse is, we can't let it consume them like it did your father." Daniel swallowed hard. "But how? It's already started." Before Clara could answer, a sound cut through the silence. A faint tapping at the window. "Top, top, top." They froze. Slowly, Daniel turned toward the glass. Nothing was there, just the reflection of their tired faces. "Top." This time it came from the back door. Clara's breath hitched. Daniel rose, grabbing the poker from beside the fireplace. He crept toward the door, heart pounding. When he yanked it open, nothing, just the dark yard, the quiet hum of crickets. But on the doorstep lay another envelope. Daniel's stomach dropped. He bent slowly, picking it up. The same elegant cursive sprawled across the front. "Bennett."
Clara whispered, "No."
He tore it open. Inside was a single slip of parchment. "The seal will not hold. The cracks have begun. Prepare yourselves." Daniel felt his knees weaken. "It's not over," he muttered. It never ended. Over the next days, the family tried to resume normal life. Emma returned to school, Josh to his video games, Clara to her garden. But everything felt off. The shadows in the corners of rooms seemed darker, heavier. At night, whispers stirred faintly in their dreams. Emma stopped eating lunch at school because she said she heard voices in the cafeteria, calling her name when no one was there. Josh confessed that sometimes, when he closed his eyes, he saw the clawed hand reaching through the stone door. Clara tried to keep everyone calm, tried to act like things were fine. But she caught herself weeping in the shower, the water hiding her tears. Josh's grin widened. "This is exactly how horror movies start. We have to go." "No," Daniel said sharply, folding the letter. His knuckles were white around it. "This is some prank. Forget it." But Clara noticed something in his face. That flicker in his eyes, fear. Not the amused kind. the kind that said he knew more than he was letting on. Later that night, when everyone else had gone to bed, Clara found Daniel sitting in the living room, staring at the letter. The shadows under his eyes made him look years older. "Daniel," she whispered, sitting beside him. "You recognized something, didn't you?" He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "My father used to talk about obligations. He said our family carried something hidden, a responsibility. I thought it was one of his drunken stories. But—" He held up the letter. "This handwriting. It's the same as the letters he used to keep locked in his desk." Clara's heart skipped. "So it's real." Daniel exhaled shakily. "I don't know, but I think we're being called into something much bigger than we can imagine." The next morning, Emma and Josh were already packed. Backpacks, water bottles, snacks, the whole deal. "Absolutely not," Daniel barked, but Emma crossed her arms. "Dad, you can't keep pretending nothing's wrong. That letter was for us, for our family. You always talk about how distant we've become. Maybe this is what we need." Clara put her hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Maybe she's right. We've been broken for so long. What if this is a chance?" Daniel looked at his children, then at the letter again. His jaw tightened. "Fine. But if we're doing this, we do it together. No one goes off alone." Josh fist-pumped. Emma smirked. Clara tried to smile, though unease coiled in her stomach. By late afternoon, the Bennett family car was winding through endless pine forests, chasing the fading light. Tension hung in the air, unspoken but heavy. Daniel gripped the wheel as if it were the only thing tethering him to reality. Each step pulsed faintly, as if alive. Clara's voice was almost a whisper. "It's an entrance, just like the journal said. A gate." Daniel's jaw tightened. "And it looks like we're meant to go in. Or meant to stay out," Emma snapped. "This is insane. Some creepy cult is after us. And now the ground is opening up? Dad, we can't." But before she could finish, the journal slipped from Daniel's grip. It fell, landing open on the first stair. The pages fluttered wildly as though caught in a wind no one else could feel. Words began to glow across the page. "The path cannot be ignored. Blood calls to blood. The silence will swallow those who resist." The letters burned bright, then faded, leaving the page blank. Josh's throat went dry. "Yeah, I think it wants us to go." Reluctantly, with the key in hand, Daniel led his family down the spiraling stairs. The air grew warmer, thicker, humming with energy. Clara kept glancing back, but the fissure above was slowly closing, sealing them inside. At the bottom, they entered a cavern vast enough to swallow a cathedral. Jagged stalactites dripped with glowing mineral veins, casting eerie light. In the center stood a colossal stone door, covered in carvings and symbols they couldn't read. The crest, the same one from the chest and the letters, was carved at its center. Emma whispered, "It's beautiful and terrifying." Daniel approached slowly, lifting the key. As he neared, the carvings rippled faintly, like water disturbed by a pebble. He pressed the key into a small opening at the base. With a grinding roar, the door shifted. A sliver of light pierced through the crack. Warm, golden, unnatural. And then voices, not loud, but a chorus of whispers leaking through the gap. Words in no language they knew, yet each of them understood in their bones. Promises of power, warnings of ruin. Clara staggered back, clutching her head. "It's inside my mind. It's speaking." The man's voice echoed through the walls. "Give it to us. Surrender the key, and your suffering ends." Daniel's voice broke with anger. "No, it ends with us." The door splintered. Figures poured inside, shadows moving with inhuman grace. Emma and Josh clung to Clara, terrified. The man stepped forward, calm amid the chaos. His pale eyes locked on Daniel. "Then bleed for it." The house erupted. Daniel swung a broken chair leg. Clara smashed a lamp into one attacker's hooded face. Emma and Josh fought to stay together. But the order was endless, their movements too precise, too strong. In the chaos, the key slipped from Daniel's grip, clattering across the floor. It skidded beneath the dining table. The man lunged for it, Daniel Dove tackling him. They rolled across the floor, fists flying, until the pale man slammed Daniel into the wall, cracking plaster. His voice was a snarl. Your bloodline has no choice. You are born to guard what cannot be killed. Daniel spat blood into his face. Then maybe it dies with me. He shoved the key against his own chest. The metal burned white-hot, searing his skin, and the humming from the earth below roared louder than ever. Clara screamed, "Daniel, no!" But he twisted it hard. The ground split open beneath the house. Light exploded through the cracks, blinding. The order staggered, clutching their heads, their hoods falling back to reveal twisted, inhuman features. Shadows leaked from their mouths like smoke. Emma and Josh fell to their knees, clutching their ears. Clara tried to pull them close, her voice drowned by the deafening hum. The pale man roared, lunging at Daniel. But Daniel stood tall, fire in his eyes. This ends now. And he drove the key deep into his chest. The world screamed. The light engulfed everything. The house, the order, the walls, all of it dissolved into white. Clara shrieked, reaching for her husband. But her hand found only air. Then silence. "Dad, we can't outrun him," Emma gasped. Daniel scanned the trees desperately, then spotted a half-collapsed mineshaft at the base of a hill. There, inside, they ducked into the darkness, pressing themselves against damp stone. The air was thick with dust, every breath heavy. Daniel clutched the journal tightly, listening. The footsteps stopped at the entrance. Silence. Then the man's voice, echoing through the shaft. "You cannot hide from the inevitable. The key will return to us. The journal will return to us. And when it does, your family will pay the price for your defiance." The footsteps faded, but the silence he left behind felt worse. For hours, they stayed in the mineshaft, afraid to emerge. Emma's hands shook as she lit the flashlight on her phone, its weak glow barely cutting through the dark. Josh tried to joke, though his voice cracked. "Well, on the bright side, at least it's not spiders." Clara pressed a hand against his cheek. "Don't try to be brave for us. It's okay to be scared." Daniel finally spoke, his voice rough. "He's right about one thing. This isn't just some adventure. We're in over our heads." He opened the journal again, flipping past the opening lines. Strange diagrams filled the pages, maps of underground caverns, drawings of symbols, notes written in a hurried, paranoid scrawl. Emma leaned over his shoulder. "Wait, look at this." She pointed at a sketch of a cavern with jagged rock formations. Beneath it were words, "The heart of silence, where earth itself breathes. There lies the gate." Josh frowned. "A gate? Like a magical portal kind of thing?" Clara's stomach turned. "Or a prison." Daniel shut the journal quickly. "Whatever it is, we need to make sure it doesn't fall into their hands." Emma's voice trembled. "But how? We don't even understand what it means." Daniel looked at his children, then at his wife. For the first time, his fear shifted into something else, resolve. "Then we'll learn. Together." Suddenly, a hand shot out from the shadows, yanking Daniel away from the door. It was the man from the order. His hat was gone, revealing a gaunt, pale face marked with strange black lines like veins. His eyes glowed faintly, unnatural. "You fools," he hissed. "You've doomed yourselves." Emma screamed, but the man ignored her, pinning Daniel against the stone. "The door is not yours to open. It binds what must never be freed." Daniel gritted his teeth. "Then why does our family have the key?" The man's expression twisted with anger. "Because your bloodline was cursed with it, chosen not as guardians but as jailers. Do you understand? You are not heroes. You are prisoners of duty." Clara gasped. "Cursed." The man shoved Daniel aside, his voice rising with fury. "Every Bennett carries the burden, generation after generation. You were meant to keep it sealed, not awaken it." But the door rumbled, widening further. Light spilled across the cavern floor, and the whispers grew louder. Josh clutched his ears. Make it stop. Please, make it stop. The man turned sharply to them, his face twisted with desperation. Help me close it before it's too late. If that gate fully opens, the silence will spread, and nothing will survive. For the first time, the family saw something different in him. Not malice, fear. Daniel glanced at the glowing crack, then at the trembling key in his hand. His heart thundered. If the man was telling the truth, their family wasn't protecting treasure. It was guarding a prison. Emma's voice shook. Dad, what do we do? The door continued to open, and from within came a wave of air so cold it burned. The light turned harsh, flickering like fire, and shadows slithered across the cavern floor, moving without shape. Clara whispered, Something's coming through. The man shouted, The key! Use it to seal it. Now! Beware the order. They know the key has resurfaced. They will stop at nothing. Trust no one. Emma swallowed hard. The order? What even is that? Some cult. Looks like it, Daniel muttered. His eyes flicked to the window, scanning the shadows outside. Josh tried to lighten the tension. Okay, so we're like in a spy movie now. Family versus creepy cult. We'll win. But Clara didn't smile. She couldn't shake the image of those pale eyes in the forest. Later that night, when everyone had fallen asleep, Clara woke to the faint sound of footsteps outside their room. Slow, careful. Her chest tightened. She nudged Daniel awake, whispering, Someone's outside. He was up instantly, grabbing the motel's rusty fire poker by the door. The steps stopped. Silence pressed against the thin walls. Then slip. A folded piece of paper slid under their door. Daniel snatched it, unfolding with trembling hands. You cannot run. The key belongs to us. Hand it over and your family will be spared. The words were written in the same elegant cursive as the first letter. Clara's blood ran cold. They found us already. Daniel shoved the note into his pocket, forcing calm into his voice. Pack your things. We leave before dawn. Emma stirred awake, groggy. What's going on? Trouble, Daniel said. By the time the first hint of sunrise crept across the horizon, the Bennetts were back on the road. But something had shifted. The air between them, the fear in their eyes. This was no longer just an adventure. It was survival. Hours later, they reached the next set of coordinates scribbled on one of the older letters. A remote chapel stood at the edge of a valley, its wooden frame sagging with age. Moss clung to the roof, and the bell tower leaned precariously. Inside, the air was thick with dust and silence. Pews lay broken, windows shattered, yet the altar remained strangely intact. But Daniel hesitated. The whispers were in his head now, tempting, promising. Open it and your family will be free. Open it and the suffering ends. Clara grabbed his arm, tears streaming down her face. Daniel, don't listen. Look at me. We have to protect the kids. Emma and Josh clung to each other, their eyes wide with terror. Daniel clenched his jaw, forcing himself to move. He shoved the key back into the opening, this time twisting it the opposite way. The cavern shook violently. The golden light flared, then dimmed, and the whispers turned into shrieks of fury. The massive stone door began to grind shut, inch by agonizing inch. But something slammed against it from the other side. The door jolted, cracking slightly, as a monstrous hand, black, clawed, dripping with shadow, forced its way through. Emma screamed. Josh sobbed. Clara held them tight. The man from the order lunged, pressing his own hands against the door, chanting words that burned the air. Help me, he roared. For one terrifying moment, it seemed the door would shatter completely. But with Daniel turning the key, Clara and the children pushing with all their strength, and the order man pressing his palms against the stone, the door finally slammed shut with an echo that shook the cavern walls. The whispers stopped. The light vanished. Silence. All that remained was the faint glow of the crest on the stone, sealing whatever horror lay within. The family collapsed, gasping for breath. Clara wept quietly, holding her children. The man staggered back, his chest heaving. He looked at Daniel, his expression unreadable. You understand now. This is your curse. It will never end. He turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving the Bennets in stunned silence. Daniel stared at the sealed door, the key still warm in his trembling hand. His voice was hollow when he finally spoke. This isn't over. It never will be. The family scrambled into the SUV, Daniel slamming the door just as a figure emerged at the edge of the clearing. It wasn't fully visible, just a silhouette tall and broad, with movements too smooth, too deliberate, as though it weren't entirely human. The engine roared, tires spitting dirt as they sped down the narrow road. Clara twisted in her seat, glimpsing the figure fade back into the trees, watching them leave.
No chase.
Just watching. Daniel's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Dad, what was that thing? Josh asked, his voice trembling. Daniel didn't answer. Daniel, Clara pressed. You know something? Tell us. He exhaled shakily. When I was a boy, my father told me stories about a guardian. He said there was something our family protected, whether we wanted to or not. I thought it was superstition. Until now. Emma scoffed nervously. You're telling me Bigfoot is real and stalking the Bennets? No, Daniel muttered, glancing at the rearview mirror. Much worse. They didn't stop until they reached a rundown motel an hour away. The neon sign buzzed, flickering like it might die at any second. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and old smoke, but it was safe or safe enough. Once the door was locked, Daniel spread the letters across the bed. Each envelope bore the same crest, the strange insignia carved into the chest. The family gathered close. Clara picked up one and read aloud. The Bennett bloodline was chosen to keep the key. Others will seek it. Some will die for it. What it unlocks must never fall into the wrong hands. Josh's eyes widened. Wait. Chosen? Like, we're some kind of secret keeper family? Daniel rubbed his temples. Apparently. Emma crossed her arms. So what does the key open? A vault? A weapon? Buried treasure? Clara's voice dropped to a whisper. Or something worse. Daniel unfolded another letter. The handwriting was rushed, jagged. Part 5. Home but not safe. The ride back from the mountains felt unreal, as though the Bennets were floating in a dream too heavy to wake from. The children dozed fitfully in the back seat, their heads resting against each other. Clara sat stiffly, eyes fixed on the road ahead, though she wasn't the one driving. Her hand never left Daniel's arm, as if she feared he might vanish if she let go. Daniel drove in silence, the key heavy in his pocket, pressing against him like a stone. Every so often, he touched it, reassuring himself it was still there, though he almost wished it wasn't. No one spoke of the man from the order. No one spoke of the door, or the thing that had tried to claw its way through. They didn't need to. The memory was burned into them. When they finally reached their small suburban home, it felt almost offensive, too normal, too quiet. Neighbors waved, sprinklers hissed across manicured lawns, and children rode bikes down the street. No one here had any idea the world had nearly cracked open beneath their feet. Inside, the family collapsed onto the couch, the weight of exhaustion crushing them. For a moment it felt like maybe, just maybe, they could pretend nothing had happened. But the illusion didn't last. That night, Daniel sat alone in the kitchen, the journal open before him. He couldn't stop reading. The words blurred into his mind like poison, telling stories of generations of Bennets who had carried this same burden. Each of them drawn to the door, each of them forced to keep it sealed. Our blood is the chain, one passage read, and chains must not break. Daniel rubbed his tired eyes. His father's warnings, the drunken stories he'd dismissed, they weren't stories at all. They were confessions. His father had known, and now it was Daniel's turn. But what haunted him most were the words of the man from the order. You are not guardians, you are jailers. Daniel whispered into the stillness. And if we fail, what happens then? When they finally reached the location, a clearing surrounded by jagged rocks, they found something waiting for them, a small, weathered chest. Josh ran forward before Daniel could stop him. Guys, It's really a treasure chest. Emma rolled her eyes but leaned in anyway. Clara's pulse quickened as Daniel knelt beside it, brushing dirt from the lid. There was a strange insignia carved into the wood, a crest Daniel vaguely remembered from his father's belongings. The lock clicked open easily, as though it had been waiting for them. Inside was not gold, not jewels, but a bundle of letters tied with black ribbon, and a key. Daniel picked up the first letter. The seal was broken, as though someone else had read it long ago. If you are reading this, the storm has already begun. Clara felt the air grow colder around them. Dad, Emma whispered. What storm? Daniel's hands trembled as he read further, and the color drained from his face. This isn't just about us, he whispered. It's about everything our family has been hiding for generations. And then, from the woods, came the sound of footsteps. Not animals, not human, something heavier. The Bennets froze. Whatever this adventure was, it had just begun. Part 2. Shadows in the forest. The sound echoed again, deeper this time. Something moved between the trees, too deliberate to be wind, too heavy to be a deer. Josh froze, gripping his sister's arm. What was that? Get in the car, Daniel hissed. His voice cracked with urgency, a side of him his children had never seen before. But before they could retreat, Clara caught sight of something glinting in the dark. Two pale, reflective eyes watching, unblinking. Emma whispered, Dad, we're not alone. Daniel shoved the letters back into the chest, slammed it shut, and grabbed the key. Move. Now. On it sat a stone box, sealed, with the same crest carved into its surface. Daniel's breath caught. He reached into his pocket, pulling out the key. Fit perfectly. The lock clicked. The lid groaned open. Inside lay an object wrapped in faded cloth. When Daniel lifted it, the family leaned closer, their faces pale with awe. It was a journal, bound in cracked leather, its pages filled with cramped handwriting and strange diagrams. Emma flipped it open. The first page read, To those who inherit this burden, the truth lies beneath the earth, where silence speaks louder than words. Josh frowned. That sounds like a riddle. Clara's voice trembled. Or a warning. Before Daniel could turn the page, the chapel door creaked open. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, blocking out the light. You should not have come here, the voice said, deep and steady. And with those words, the Bennets realized running was no longer an option. Part 3. The Man from the Order. The figure stepped into the chapel, boots crunching on broken glass. He was tall, dressed in a dark coat that brushed the floor, his face half hidden beneath the brim of a wide hat. The Bennets instinctively huddled together, Daniel shielding his family with one arm. The man's eyes glinted like steel as he scanned the open stone box, the key in Daniel's hand, and the journal clutched tightly against his chest. You have what belongs to us, the man said. His voice was calm, too calm, like someone accustomed to being obeyed. Daniel tightened his grip on the journal. It was left for us, for my family. The man tilted his head, almost amused. You don't understand the weight you carry. That book, that key, they are not gifts, they are chains, and you are not strong enough to bear them. Emma stepped forward before Daniel could stop her. Who are you? What do you want from us? The man smiled faintly. Names are irrelevant, but if you must call us something, call us the Order. We have safeguarded this secret for centuries. And you? He gestured at the family with a gloved hand. You were never meant to awaken it. Josh blurted out. So what's in the journal? Why does it matter? The man's smile vanished. Knowledge that should never be unearthed. Places that should remain buried. Powers that will consume those foolish enough to seek them. Clara's heart pounded. She could feel her husband trembling, though his voice stayed steady. If it's so dangerous, why not destroy it? The man's eyes darkened. Because some truths cannot be destroyed. They only wait. And if the wrong hands find them first. He trailed off, his gaze fixing on the journal. Give it to me. Spare your family the suffering. Daniel hesitated. The room felt colder, heavier, as though the chapel itself were holding its breath. His instincts screamed to protect his children, but another voice inside whispered that this journal was meant for them, that walking away would mean betraying something greater. "No," Daniel said finally. The man's expression hardened. "Then you have chosen suffering." In a blur, he lunged forward. Daniel shoved Clara and the kids back as the man's hand shot out, aiming for the journal. They crashed into a pew, splinters flying. Emma screamed, Josh cursed, and Clara grabbed the fire poker they'd brought from the motel, swinging it with desperate force. It struck the man's shoulder. He barely flinched. With one hand, he caught the poker mid-swing and snapped it in two like it was nothing. But that small distraction was enough. Daniel grabbed his family and bolted toward a side door, clutching the journal to his chest. They spilled out into the forest, branches whipping their faces as they ran. Behind them, heavy footsteps followed, steady and unhurried. The man wasn't chasing, he was hunting. Part 6. Breaking the chain. The house no longer felt like home. Every corner seemed to whisper. Every shadow seemed to breathe. The Bennetts were prisoners inside their own walls, and even silence had turned against them. Daniel sat at the dining table with the journal spread open, candles burning low around him. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands shaking as he flipped through the pages. He had read them all before, but now he was desperate. Somewhere in those endless warnings, there had to be an answer. Clara entered quietly, placing a mug of untouched coffee by his side. "You're killing yourself," she whispered. Daniel didn't look up. "If I stop, it wins." Clara's hand touched his shoulder.
No.
"If you stop, maybe we can live. Just be a family again." But Daniel's voice was hard. "We can't go back. We're chained to this. Unless—" His finger landed on a line he had overlooked before. "Blood opened it. Blood sealed it. Blood can end it." He looked at Clara, his face pale. "It doesn't just mean we're the chain. It means one of us could be the key to breaking it forever." Her eyes widened. "You're not saying—" But before she could finish, Emma screamed upstairs. They rushed to her room. Emma stood rigid at the window, her breath fogging the glass though the night was warm. Her eyes were wide, unblinking. "Emma," Clara whispered. Emma turned slowly, her lips trembling. "They're outside." Daniel froze. "Who?" She pointed at the yard. Figures. Dozens of them. Silent, still, their faces hidden by hoods. The order had come. And in front, the pale man. His voice carried across the night like a blade. "It is time." The door rattled. Windows shook. The Bennetts backed into the living room, Daniel clutching the key, Clara holding the journal tight against her chest. Part 1. The letter that changed everything. The evening in the Bennett household had started like any other. The children were glued to their phones. Their mother, Clara, folded laundry at the kitchen table, and Daniel, the father, stared blankly at his laptop screen. The routine had become suffocating, each of them wrapped in their own private bubble, barely acknowledging each other. Then came the knock on the door. Daniel frowned. "Who even knocks anymore?" he muttered, pushing his chair back. When he opened the door, there was no one, just a yellowed envelope resting neatly on the welcome mat.
No stamp.
No return address. Just one word written in elegant cursive. Bennett. He brought it inside, tossing it onto the table. Clara glanced at it between folding shirts, her brow furrowing. Something about it felt strange. "Are you going to open it?" she asked. Daniel shrugged. "Probably junk. Some marketing stunt." But his voice betrayed unease. The kids, Emma, 17, and Josh, 14, perked up with curiosity. "Come on, Dad," Emma pressed. "It looks old, like treasure map old." Josh leaned forward, grinning. "What if it is a treasure map?" Daniel sighed, slid a finger under the flap, and unfolded the parchment inside. His eyes darted across the neat handwriting, and the blood drained from his face. "To the Bennett family, your name carries a debt long forgotten. It is time you discovered the truth. Follow the coordinates below, and all will be revealed. But beware, family secrets have a cost. At the bottom were a set of coordinates. Clara frowned. What kind of nonsense is this? But Emma had already pulled out her phone. Hold up. These coordinates, they're real. It's like 3 hours from here. In the mountains. And Daniel, he barely slept at all. He stayed up night after night, studying the journal, tracing maps and symbols, desperate to understand. He became gaunt, haunted. The more he read, the more he realized the order wasn't their only enemy. The journal spoke of something older, deeper, something that had been whispering since the beginning of time, waiting for silence to fall. One passage chilled him to the core. The silence spreads not from outside, but from within. When the blood weakens, the gate will break. Daniel slammed the book shut, his hands trembling. It wasn't the cult. It wasn't the creature. It was them, the Bennets themselves. The breaking point came one night when Emma woke screaming. Daniel and Clara rushed into her room, finding her thrashing, her eyes rolled back, her voice a guttural whisper not her own. The silence rises. The silence rises. Josh stood frozen in the doorway, pale as a ghost. Clara grabbed Emma, shaking her. Wake up. Please wake up. Daniel pressed the glowing key against Emma's palm. The moment metal touched her skin, she gasped and jolted awake, sobbing. Dad? She whispered, clutching his shirt. It was inside me. I could hear it whispering, begging me to open the door again. Daniel held her tight, his face buried in her hair. He couldn't let her see the terror in his eyes. When Clara looked at him over Emma's shoulder, her voice was steady but cold. We can't run from this, Daniel. We have to fight it. He nodded slowly, the weight of their fate pressing down on him. The journal, the key, the curse, it wasn't something they could escape. Their family was the chain, and something was trying to break it. When Clara awoke, she was lying on the grass outside their home. The night was still, the house intact, as though nothing had happened. Emma and Josh stirred beside her, dazed but alive. Mom, Emma whispered. Where's Dad? Clara's eyes filled with tears. She stood slowly, her gaze locking on the front steps. The journal lay there, closed. The crest on its cover burned faintly, but the key was gone. So was Daniel. Josh sobbed, burying his face into his mother's arms. Clara held him, though her own body trembled. Emma stood beside them, silent tears streaking her face, staring at the empty space where her father should have been. The pale man and his order were gone. The whispers had stopped. The silence had lifted. Daniel had broken the chain. Weeks later, life slowly returned to something resembling normal. The Bennets laughed again, though always with a shadow in their eyes. Emma carried her father's strength, Josh his stubborn courage, Clara his unwavering love. But sometimes, late at night when the world was quiet, Clara swore she could hear him. Not whispers of the silence, but Daniel's voice. Keep them safe. And she knew, though the chain had broken and the curse had ended, his sacrifice would never leave them. The adventure had begun with a letter. It ended with love strong enough to silence the darkness. Forever.